Can I ask? In fact, the question or opinion which I am sharing comes from following your work as well as pedagogy of the oppressed by Paulo Freire. Those of us who are interested in social science or social psychology must read that book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. It beautifully gives an account of how oppressed keep thinking like they get sandwiched between the psychology of ruler and oppressed. That's what is happening with us. So we want to project ourselves like ruler, but we are still shadowed by the the aftermath of. My question to you is, Mr. Rajiv, that the kind of
can you speak inside the mic?
yeah, you can see that.
Yeah.
Can you this observation or question is like this kind of literalization or understanding, the very simple word understanding which you mentioned must percolate down to the multiple tiers of society. Then only what you are trying to convey will get conveyed.
Yes.
And to do that, do you think, there are two parts of this question. Do we need to come to what I can say language consciousness? Because we think that we know English, but we don't really understand. So that is
my goal.
Second is that do you think that your work should also be available in Hindi and
yes.
maybe in Sanskrit also?
Yes. My works are being translated into Tamil, Kannada, Hindi. And now the Sanskrit Bharati people are going to translate this latest book into many 50-page small books, maybe 10 or 15 of them, into Sanskrit, because I believe that the system of Purva Paksh needs to be revived, where we debate with opponents. We debate with opponents.
We react without homework.
Yeah. So our traditional people need to understand Western thought about them. They are outsiders, and they need to give a response. So we'll have equal voice at the table. You see, you don't resolve these issues by shouting and accusing and blaming, like somebody start out by saying, you have been pronounced guilty, as if he's some Supreme Court fellow, talking to me like that. I mean, you have to learn to sit down and say, this is an allegation, what do you think? You have to start like that. First, dignity and manners is, you make a statement and you listen. So you see, what has happened is the whole Western ideology, the Western ideology is such that our people are not given a chance to respond. Our people have a right to respond, and they don't understand. Yeah. So this business of percolating the knowledge to lower strata is very important. And as the knowledge of the Indian intellectual elite, which includes social scientists, percolates to the lower strata, I am predicting that the lower strata will say, let's get rid of these guys, because these guys are elitists. They are brown-skinned, Americanized social science elites. And they are not people who are really part of our culture. They don't understand who we are. They just come up with foreign theories, and they are trying to make the Indian culture fit into foreign theories. So and I'm anti-elitist. And I'm finding that a lot of the people here are elitists, and I'm anti-elitist.
Mr. Malhotra has agreed to sit with the students for a discussion over dinner afterwards. We'll just take a last question from the gentleman, the lady in front. They come from Pune, so they will not be joining us for dinner.
I'm from this.
Okay, the gentleman. Okay.
Yeah, so we're together. Okay. He's my father. So my question. One only.
Please choose one.
Now the left is trying to claim Ambedkar, and even you, I see your side as the dharmic side, right? And you have in your book Breaking India quoted Ambedkar several times to strengthen your argument. So whose claim to Ambedkar is a genuine one?
Okay, the Ambedkar is a very interesting person because his original notes when he was in Columbia getting his PhD got destroyed. Do you know that? How many of, I don't know if you guys know that when Ambedkar was returning to India, there was one passenger ship he was on, and the cargo was going in another cargo ship, and the Germans torpedoed that. And so in those days there was no online record, computer record, no Xerox copy, there's no other record. His original diaries, notes, everything was destroyed. So a lot of what happened to Ambedkar in America, who sponsored him, who influenced him, what was he doing, what were his thoughts, those are the formative years of Ambedkar that are missing. So a lot of it's like archaeological evidence, that is historical evidence is missing. So some people are going through the Columbia archives to see if there is secondary evidence. Maybe some classmate wrote something about him, or maybe there's a newsletter or a talk he gave to try and reconstruct the missing years of Ambedkar to figure out more about him. I think he's a very important person. I don't think he's left wing, right wing. I think he's sort of an enigmatic person, and we ought to. He's one of the founding fathers of this country. He's a great man, and we ought to respect him and understand more about him. And maybe we find out he's a complex person. I think that it would be very difficult. It would be very difficult to characterize Gandhi as a left wing or a right wing guy. I mean, very difficult to characterize him. A lot of the things that if you were to take Gandhi's statements and delete the fact that it's Gandhi, make it anonymous and ask a lot of people, they will say this is Hindutva, this is fascist, this is right wing. They talk like that because Gandhi made all kinds of statements about missionaries. He made all kinds of statements. In fact, Ambedkar made a lot of statements about Christianity and Islam that today would be considered communal. Okay, so they are left wing in some ways, right wing in some ways. I think what we have to figure out is whether these categories make any sense for us, and these may be imported categories. I don't know how many of you know what's the origin of left and right. That's nothing to do with our history. I tell people, I was in a conference in Salt Lake City, and Shabana Azmi was brought in as sort of an expert. I don't know why, but this was a conference on colonization, post-colonization, and some other things I've told you I've presented over there. And so she asked me, "Aap left wing hai ke right wing hai?" Because she heard me for an hour and she couldn't figure out what to do with this fellow. So I told her that left when the French Revolution, after that, the peasants could also sit in the parliament, and peasants didn't have cologne to hide their odor because French people don't take a bath, and so they have body odor. But the aristocrats have cologne to hide the body odor. So the aristocrat didn't want to sit near this foul-smelling peasant. They would sit on one side of the aisle, and the peasants would sit on the other side of the aisle. And so they didn't know each other's names. They would refer to, when answering each other's questions, they would say in response to the gentleman on the left, and they would say in response to the gentleman on the right. This became known as the left wing and the right wing. So I told her, कि देखिए, हम तो रोज नहाते हैं, हमारा तो problem नहीं है. So if you take a bath, you don't need to be left wing or right wing, and you can be lying on both wings, so you don't have to have water. Thank you very much.